Welcome to Super Showdowns, the ultimate destination for epic battles and legendary showdowns. Join us as we put iconic superheroes, villains, and mythological figures against each other in thrilling matches of strength, strategy, and skill. There were places even gods dared not walk. One such place was the Oblivion Rift, a tear in the fabric of reality where multiversal currents bled together like oil on water. It was here that ancient powers collided and long-buried monstrosities slept, or so the multiverse hoped. But today, something stirred. A crimson storm swirled above a jagged obsidian plateau, shaped not by weather, but by raw cosmic rage. Deep beneath the rock, the crimson gem of Cyttorak pulsed with unease. For centuries, it had been a symbol of relentless destruction, the unending wrath of Cyttorak himself, channeled into his chosen avatar. Cain Marco, the Juggernaut, stood motionless at the edge of the rift, like a golem carved from steel and fury. His massive arms crossed over his barrel chest, his breath steady, his thoughts few. Cain was no philosopher, he didn't need to be. When the world screamed, he walked through it. When the gods fell, he kept moving. But today, he felt a presence, not magical, not divine, not even sentient in the traditional sense, just pure, ancient hate. From the far end of the rift, a spiked, grey-skinned silhouette rose, dragged out of time by chaotic ripples, bones crackling back into place, lungs re-inflating with a growl that sounded like stone grinding stone. The monster that once killed Superman now opened its eyes in a new universe, Doomsday. He didn't care how he got here. He didn't care why. He just wanted to kill. The rift howled in response as the two behemoths locked eyes. Juggernaut tilted, his helmet slightly, sizing up the figure before him. No weapons, no words, just bone protrusions and hate. "You lost, freak," Cain growled. Doomsday didn't answer. He charged. Like a tsunami of hate, the monster leapt with a roar, claws extended, slamming into Juggernaut with enough force to fracture the surrounding stone plains. The shockwave cracked the horizon. The entire rift trembled. But Cain Marco didn't budge. He stood firm and then smiled. "Wrong move, ugly." With a roar of his own, Juggernaut's fist arced through the air like a meteor, slamming into Doomsday's vase. The monster reeled, but instead of falling back, it twisted mid-air, using the momentum to deliver a knee to Juggernaut's armored jaw. Cain staggered back a step. Not much, but enough to surprise him. "Not bad," he muttered. "Haven't had a good scrap in a while." The rift was no longer still. It had become a war drum, echoing each blow across time. Meteorites shattered in orbit. Planets paused in their spin. Cosmic beings looked toward the crack in reality and wondered who or what would come out alive. Far away, across dimensions, the being known as Cyttorak stirred on his throne of pain. His crimson skin shimmered with curiosity as he watched the battle unfold through the gem's lens. "This creature," he whispered, eyes narrowing, "it is not of my creation, but it walks with the same madness. Even he, a god of destruction."
Hey you, don't just watch. Subscribe please.
Felt unease. Doomsday was no mortal. He was no champion. He was a natural law made flesh. The answer to the question, what if evolution hated everything? Still, Juggernaut was his avatar, the unstoppable force. "Show him, Cain," Cyttorak rumbled. "Show him what it means to be chosen." The ground had become a cratered wasteland. Doomsday lunged again, but this time Juggernaut was moving, charging, with all the mystic force of his god behind him. Reality warped around his momentum. As soon as he hit Doomsday, the monster was driven through 5 layers of rock and time into a pocket dimension below. They crashed through frozen lightning storms, anti-gravity fields, and necro-energy seas. When they landed, the cavern was an ancient arena used once by forgotten gods for combat. It would now host its final fight. Doomsday rose, one eye gouged but already regenerating. His jaw was cracked, his ribcage bent, but he smiled. It was horrifying. He charged again, faster now, adapting. He grabbed Juggernaut by the throat and dragged him across the battlefield, bashing him into the stone walls, pounding him like a living sledgehammer. Juggernaut's helmet dented slightly, but the glow of Cyttorak held firm. Cain wrapped his arms around Doomsday and slammed him backward into a pillar, cracking it in half. The roof began to collapse. Dust, fire. Screams from other dimensions echoed as the walls shattered. Then silence. And through that silence, a voice whispered inside Juggernaut's mind. He cannot be stopped, but neither can you. Cain snarled, blood in his mouth. I've fought gods, demons, hulks. You're just another ugly face with a death wish. Doomsday answered the only way he knew how, by charging again. The two titans collided once more, not as men, not as monsters, but as concepts. Unstoppable force met unkillable evolution. Each blow reshaped the battlefield. Each roar bent the very laws of space and time. Cracks spread across the edges of the universe like spiderwebs, and above them, in the crackling rift sky, a tear opened wider. Watchers from the multiverse staring down at the battle with awe and fear, because they all realized something. This wasn't a battle to win. This was a battle to outlast, and only one would remain standing. The ancient arena was no more. It had become a furnace of annihilation, an exploding wound beneath the skin of reality. What had begun as a clash of muscle and fury had now evolved into a war between cosmic absolutes. The air screamed as dimensions buckled, time hiccuped. Even the stars above blinked and looked away. In the center of it all stood Juggernaut, his armor cracked, red mist leaking from the broken seams of his crimson shell. His breath came heavy now, slower, but his eyes still burned. He was tired, yes, but he was not done. Across from him, rising from the rubble like a god resurrected, was Doomsday, his chest torn open, bones shattered and mending even as he walked. His body remembered every punch, every break, every kill, and it had learned. He was stronger now, faster, more dangerous. Juggernaut clenched his fists and charged again, fueled by Cyttorak's power. His boots crushed the fractured ground, creating shockwaves with every step. His roar drowned out the thunder as he hurled himself like a meteor toward the beast. Doomsday didn't dodge. He met the charge head-on. BOOM! The impact split the planet's crust. Mountains collapsed in a chain reaction. Lava exploded upward like volcanic geysers. The two titans skidded across the ground, locked in a grapple, each trying to overpower the other. Juggernaut forced Doomsday to one knee. That's it, he grunted. You're strong, but the words caught in his throat. Doomsday smiled again, and then he did the unthinkable. He pushed back. Juggernaut, the avatar of Cyttorak, the living embodiment of unstoppable momentum, was being pushed. No, Cain growled, veins bulging across his neck. You can't. I never stop. Doomsday's body erupted with new spiked formations, his limbs mutating mid-battle to resist Juggernaut's strength. With a burst of terrifying might, he twisted Juggernaut's arm backward with a sickening crack, lifted the behemoth into the air and slammed him into the ground, shaking the multiversal seams once again. Cain roared and lashed out, burying a fist into Doomsday's ribs, breaking them. Doomsday didn't scream. He laughed, then retaliated with a clawed punch that tore a gash across Juggernaut's face, sending pieces of his helmet flying. From his crimson realm, Cyttorak roared in disbelief. He slammed his fist into the walls of his throne room, splitting galaxies in his fury. You are my avatar, you are my weapon. How can you be losing? But Cain couldn't hear him anymore. The connection was fading. Something in Doomsday's relentless evolution was interfering, severing the mystical tether, warping the frequencies of chaos itself. Cyttorak watched as his champion staggered, dazed, battered, bloodied. And for the first time in eons, he felt helpless. Back in the rift, Juggernaut stumbled to one knee, his arms limp at his sides. Blood leaked from beneath his armor, one eye swollen shut. The crimson glow around him flickered, once strong, now faltering. But even broken, he stood again, because that's what Juggernaut does. Don't stop, he hissed. Doomsday, now taller, leaner, more jagged with evolved spikes, approached slowly, methodically. Like a beast savoring its final kill, Juggernaut lunged one final time, a defiant, thunderous punch fueled by everything he had left. Doomsday caught it. Then he twisted Kane's arm, shattered it at the joint, and drove his knee into Juggernaut's chest so hard, the armor collapsed inward. Juggernaut spat blood, and Doomsday did what no one had done before. He lifted the Juggernaut off the ground and ripped off his helmet. The magic screamed. Kane Marco's face was exposed, human, vulnerable, his eyes wide with shock. Doomsday stared into him, not out of hatred, not for revenge, simply because that's what he did. He ended things. And then he plunged his claws through Juggernaut's chest, deep enough to rupture whatever remained of Cyttorak's borrowed power. A red pulse, a soundless implosion. Kane Marco fell. The earth stopped rumbling. The rift was silent. Doomsday stood over Juggernaut's broken body. For a long moment, he did not move. Then slowly, he raised his arms and let out a roar of conquest that shattered nearby moons and echoed into the void. He had killed the unstoppable. The multiverse felt it. Cyttorak felt it. And across all realms, one truth became legend. There is no force that cannot be stopped, only those not yet broken. And today, the Juggernaut was broken. Doomsday turned away from the corpse, uninterested now. The itch was gone. The rage fed. But somewhere, in some reality, a new battle would come. It always did. And he would be ready, because Doomsday always comes back.